To anybody besides us?
Probably not, but who knows? It'll probably take me 2 minutes to check that everything's working anyway.
Yeah, okay.
It was funny, like, you can be really good at this stuff, and even then, you can just completely screw it up. I was going on to Pete's live stream from last night, and so for those who are just watching, listening here, Pete's got the Learn Cardano podcast.
Yep.
And he's probably done, I'd say like at least 10 to 15 streams, at least, probably more. And man, it was such a shit show from the very start. He was trying to connect up YouTube to Discord to Zoom. He was getting like
connecting everything.
Yeah, the infinite audio loop just kept going and going and going. He I think he spent probably like, when I looked at his video, I think it just said probably about 10 to 15 minutes of dead time right at the start.
Yeah.
And then he labeled his chapter dead time.
Dead time.
Which I thought was pretty funny. It was, yeah, that was good. I just realized as well, with all of the ones that I create, the chapters, they are going to be different on the YouTube than they are on the actual audio, because the YouTube video starts longer than the audio.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I don't think I changed that from last time. So if anyone's looking at those old chapters, they are going to be
They're
wrong.
completely off. Yeah, okay. True, good point.
All right, and I've got this. Yeah, it's up on there. There we go. See if anything's happening in the chat, live chat. I'll do one. Hey. And let's see if that pops up over here as well. Bing, bong, bing. Here we go. Capture top moments, close. I see my own comment there. Very good. We'll wait the 4 minutes, man. We'll just in case people do want to.
So how do you want to say then when you do the audio, would you just cut this bit out of it type of deal?
There's two options. There's that, or there is, I can just add on a... The problem with at the moment is it's quite easy to actually go through the audio and to be able to add the markers in and then export those markers.
Yep.
The problem is they're in this really fucked up format, and I was going to actually ask you for help on it, because you probably know Excel a little bit better than I do. Is that they're in this format where I want it in minutes and seconds, and when I do that in Excel, whatever it spits it out as just completely changes it to something new. And so it'll, instead of being 59 minutes 23 seconds, it'll change it to like 15 minutes 23 or something, for there's just no real rhyme and reason. I probably spent an hour or two last week trying to figure it out until I just went, fuck it, like it's so much quicker for me to just make them all text and then delete off, because it's got like these little tiny numbers at the end, so it's like 59 minutes 23 seconds and then 0.236 something.
Okay.
And I want to get rid of that 0.236 because it's going to fuck up everything else.
But you find it just easier to do it by text. Jeez, okay.
And so that would be okay with this one, with the live stream, to just be able to have it as like an addition thing. So if I had an extra 3 minutes on the live stream, then if there was an addition thing, that would be super easy. But I can't do it because it's in fucking text. So maybe I will be
that's
just
a little bit annoying,
cutting the streams to make them more acceptable. I'm just gonna chuck this in, and actually the easiest way would be to chuck it into here and then hear what we sound like, because the YouTube will sound different to what I do afterwards.
Distorted.
Well, it could be distorted or just really low. That was another thing Pete was struggling with, was his mic is always like really low
when it comes through, when it goes on YouTube.
Yeah, because he keeps messing it up compared to that's coming through, because I think he always changes his mic settings for
just like a conversation or something.
Yeah, sounds alright. I think. Yeah, sweet. You sound about the same that I do.
Good.
It's good. That's all rolling there. I reckon we should just get into it, my man.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Got that there. Got the live stream up there. Could probably make that a little bit smaller. Yeah, that should be good. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, I believe. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Mortals Musings, the live version. So if you are just tuning in now late, that's okay. That's cool. But you could be joining in live on YouTube and potentially in the future of podcasting 2.0 in the actual app itself. So just
that would be pretty fun.
A heads up there.
That would be fun
for those doing it.
Although I don't know how much different it would be to YouTube Live.
It'd be very similar because they were saying basically they'd still use a chat function and then they would also have like a Boostagram. So very similar in that you can have chats on YouTube and then the super chats, which has got a donation attached to it.
Currently on YouTube.
Yeah. So it'd be very similar to that, but you could just have it in your favorite podcasting app. So you're not forced to use YouTube. Like if you really love Spotify, not that Spotify will be...
It's going to be doing it.
They're not on the forefront of innovation, let's say. But let's just say Fountain. Maybe then you really love the Fountain app. And you're like, I don't really want it. Fountain's cooler. I enjoy using it. But I still want to listen to the Mere Mortals Live.
Yep.
I'll go to Fountain.
Okay.
We'll see how long it'll
I was
take.
going to say, would you say, right at this moment, you would say Fountain app's cooler than the YouTube app?
No.
Okay.
No. Not for video, obviously.
Yeah, well, there's not really that functionality there available.
I don't know, man. Boostagram's really cool.
If YouTube introduced Boostagram, well, I mean...
Because they sort of already have it in a way, so but it's different. Like
it is slightly different. Yeah,
it is different. Anyway, this episode is Musings, a deep conversation with a light-hearted touch. Not philosophy in the park because we're inside. But today's episode is going to be about beliefs. And I had a reason for this, which was it was just one thing that I think this is how I choose my topics. Something comes up in my head, and I'm like, I'm just going to make that the topic for this week, and then I'll find other reasons to talk about it, cool things to talk about. But there's one thing, and that one thing is my it's linked to my next hated buzzword. So little spoiler there for
next hated buzzword
for someone to, if they wanted to get in and hear about that. But
I wonder if people can recall what your original hated buzzword was.
Probably the first one that came up was pivot, and then I think I started saying things like
there was another one as well.
There was a bunch. Manifestation popped up. I think there was another 2 or 3, but I can't remember them. I go through phases. There's ones which really
I think pivot still remains. Pivot's still terrible.
I still hear it. And I'm like, oh,
okay, but beliefs. I've got a little definition for us.
Yeah. So let's go for the definition first. So I've got one here which says an acceptance that something exists or is true, especially one without proof. I'm not so sure about that one without proof one. I think that's sort of like a negative way of putting it. When YouTube, in Wikipedia, it says a belief is an attitude that something is the case or that some proposition about the world is true. So that's another one. And I think I looked at the Merriam-Webster before as well. So there was a couple here. A state or habit of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing, i.e. her belief in God, a belief in democracy, something that is accepted, considered to be true or held as an opinion, something believed, conviction of the truth or something. They're all pretty similar. The only different one was the one which was saying, especially one without proof.
I would not know if I would agree with... Well, I wouldn't say it has to be...
I wouldn't say especially. I could definitely say, you've got ones without proof, but I wouldn't say...
Especially without proof.
A belief is something that is held to be true, especially without proof.
Yeah. I mean, you could say, like, I believe that the earth is round. That's a belief.
Fucking get out of here, mate.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you could say, I believe the earth is round. There's proof. Or you could say there's no proof, but again, it's kind of like it's independent of that. It's a belief.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I think we all get it. It's I would say stronger than an opinion. So a belief is it's that next level up. So like if you have an opinion on something, you'll maybe defend it a little bit, but if you have a belief in something, you'll probably be defending it pretty hard, I would say.
Yeah, you're more invested into it.
Yeah. That's how I'd put it. So why this came up was. I was thinking about my new hated word. Polarization is my new hated buzzword.
Polarization.
For this next month.
I really haven't even seen that word.
Well, you talked
come
about...
up or
You talked about it not too long ago, and I think that was in reference to what were we talking about? It was something online, and I think it was something about COVID, maybe about long COVID or something.
Okay.
Anyway, I've heard this been propping up for a long time now, which was, social media is making everyone more polarized, and it's making the world a worse place.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, I'll tie this in eventually to belief, but I'll
Yeah,
bring a story first. So, I wanted to make the case that I don't think that's particularly true. I don't think that just because you're behaving and saying these things online, that necessarily translates to bad things in the offline world. Like, I wouldn't say the world is a worse off place now compared to 2006 and that's the sort of the trend going around. That's social media has made the world a worse place. And I want to counter that, and that's linked to belief, because I think you can believe things, but you don't necessarily need to act on them. And I think those are two different things, and they can be separated.
Okay. Yeah.
So just because you say these things online, just because you maybe appear to be getting angrier and the world appears to be getting worse online, I don't think that transfers off to the real world.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well,
okay.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
None that come to mind directly. I mean, but why in particular was the word polarizing something that came to you and said, "Oh yeah, disgust" at this word?
I think the reason was just the implicit assumption that it is worse, like that everything is worse. So here's
Wait. So was it the word that you were? Because you were saying, is it the word
it's sort of like, oh yeah, polarization, and then you go from polarization to this is bad, and I'm not sure that's the case. So
gotcha. I think that the word polarization doesn't have to mean bad either. Like that definition, I think the definition you could look it up, but of polarization just means that it's like differences, not so much it's differences and negative.
Let's see what happens when I bring it up. I think usually in the context I've heard it, it's usually said in a negative way.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's division into two sharply contrasting groups or sets of opinions or beliefs.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what we expected.
But I think it's a whole
polarization waves.
Well, that's what I mean. To me, the word is like sharply divided views or beliefs. Doesn't have to mean that like they have negatives. You could have a sharp belief that you think Chelsea is the best team or that Manchester United is the best team. That's two polarized views.
Yeah,
I think that I'd probably say maybe to the word the use of polarization is probably used as a specific target that it's a bad word or it's a bad intent that. Oh, it's so polarizing that we have social media. Yeah, okay. I'd say maybe overused for that perspective.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that was one thing that sort of got me thinking about beliefs, I guess. And then I was like, okay, how
so what was the actual belief that was tied into that?
So it was more what brought up the idea was there's polarization, and that makes it worse. And then I was thinking, okay, beliefs don't necessarily mean you're gonna put these things into action, what you may be saying. And so maybe you can believe something, but maybe it's not going to make the world a worse place. And then Peter came up, how do you even measure the goodness of the world anyways? That's a tough one. That's getting pretty...
In what units would you measure it?
Yeah, I mean, this did get into something, some strong beliefs that I had, which was screw it, we'll skip forward. I had a little order of how I was thinking of doing things, but I'll skip.
This is live, people. This is how it works.
That's it. So here's a couple of things that I would say. For most things, if I definitely have beliefs on, and they can be strong, but I would always add the caveat for me. So I think intermittent fasting is good for me. I think doing tons of handstands each day is good for me. This doesn't necessarily translate onto everyone. And then there's a couple of things which I'd maybe I would fight pretty hard for, which is maybe some like exercise. Some exercise is good for everyone. I would, if anyone was arguing against that, I'd be pretty strongly against that. Even if it's what if they're crippled or something? I'd be like, even just moving the body around somewhat would be good for them. Another one was there is such a thing as a universal good or bad or right and wrong.
There's a universal good or bad, right or wrong.
Like, so there is a continuum at least. How you measure it is really hard because you know, some people in some countries would say it's better when the government is more strict and that females have to wear the hijab, wear that sort of thing. You know, over here in the West, you'd say, no, more freedom for them and more freedom for us in general.
Sure, yeah.
But those are maybe like a single topic, but there's definitely one where there's a belief without much backing it or proof. But I feel in my gut like there is a way where you can say something is right or wrong, or at least there is a right way to live and there's a wrong way to live. I would say there is. You can find points. I would definitely argue that. I'd be terrible at arguing it, but that's definitely a belief.
See, because I disagree with that, but I disagree with it to like that would particular belief, but depends on how you constrain it. Because I would say if you're talking like everyone on Earth, like if you're saying like this is a belief that I have belief, 100%, I would say that you can get challenged on that for sure because of the universal good and the universal evil idea or belief. Like that, there's a universal good. For sure, there's someone else that can challenge any particular view, and you can just take like, you know,
I would always just say something like, you know, the Columbine kids. Is there any defendable way is there any position you can take that can really defend them and say that was a good thing, that they did good, the way they acted and behaved was good?
No, I don't think anybody could externally. Could they place themselves on a different scale? I think they could. I think that there could be a real rationalization within someone's mind to make it occur. Now, take it to another extreme. Let's just say a war. Let's go make up a fictitious war. Let's just say it was like Indonesia versus America and they hated each other and there was some massive fighting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could go from either side and go like, it's totally universally good that I'm going over there and killing X person because they want to take my freedom. And you could totally find the same thing coming from the outside, being like, oh no, they want to take my freedom. It's a universally good thing that I'm doing this for my country. There you have two different universally good things. That particular example, I think you could still find it even within that individual, that you could find some kernel of understanding for them that maybe they don't know it's all bad, but maybe it's like, oh no, I've got to do this because it appeases me, or maybe I even know that this is terrible, but not as universally evil as some others may think. Like say, would you think that a Hitler would have had to believe that he was being, you know, totally evil, deeply evil? And I guess there's this particular challenge on that belief that I wouldn't say that it's 100% right, but I would say that more often than not, it would be right. Although you can then deconstruct it at the extremes. And then you can get like really silly levels. You go beyond like human scope. You could be like, oh, well, what if there's aliens out there who believe that killing each other is like really good, and that's universally good?
Yeah, well, I was trying to think about. I actually had the same thing. I was like, could I conceive of some alien society where doing violence, and so to counter your one of war, that's where I would be saying, you know, non-violence is pretty close up to there as like a core tenet of. It's hard to go wrong with that for me. It's like really hard to do bad with that, for example. And then I was trying to think the same thing. Are there aliens out there where
let's just imagine it's not even aliens.
Like deconstructing the matter of another alien is
a great thing,
somehow good for them? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe if they have some weird evolution going on where.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I'm constricting it to like humanity, because like that probably all makes sense, because then you could start getting into the weird conversations and going, well, what about, you know, those spiders where they procreate, they have kids, and then the lady eats the guy? That's not seen as a bad thing. That's like, that's what happens. That's probably in their world universally fine, right? That probably, genuinely happens. So, you know, is the female spider evil? You know, universally evil because they're like literally killing killing the baby, the daddy, and the kids? No, that's just fucking what happens. That's the reality of the animal kingdom in some places. So I think constricting to the human society at large, I would say that belief I would agree with to some extent, but there can definitely be extremes where I think it'd fall apart.
Yeah. All right. Give me some of your beliefs, man. What are some things you believe?
Some of the easy ones, I mean, you mentioned it already. The I believe that you should explore and find the limits to your physical prowess. So I think I've extended it here a little bit.
Okay.
That, you know, you said that at least people should do some sort of activity where it's from a health perspective, of, you know, movement perspective at least. I would push it myself and I would say you should try to explore and find the limits to your physical prowess. And I think that there is a saying, like a Stoic saying, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Seneca, around that. But yeah, I do totally believe, at least personally, I'm like, you shouldn't like end your days without knowing what the limit of what you could have done across a gamut of different physical prowesses would be. So that would be one. That would be another one. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Sorry, Peter just messaged. Eating the male ensures the future of the species.
Yeah.
Yes. That's one version of it.
Exactly.
No, I think that sounds pretty good. I'm not sure about like reaching the limit. Not sure that part is necessary.
Mine's finding the limits. I think to me, I think the belief is finding the limits is an important thing.
Yeah, okay.
Find the limit. And now, I say physical prowess. I think my belief is not that you have to find it in everything, but you should find it in most things. And I'm talking now around, you know, the very basic things, all the way back: running, swimming, jumping. Sure, I can add in the details of like squatting. I wouldn't put that there. I'd just say like more of the more basic movements of your running and your swimming and your jumping and throwing and stuff like that. You should get to a point that you either have maxed them or not trained them, I wouldn't say, but just participated to the level that, you know, you could be like, yeah, I was able to get as good as I possibly could have gotten or perform in that activity and not leave it hanging and being like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I definitely could have thrown better or run better, but I was just a lazy piece of shit and just sat on the couch all day.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So that would be a belief. Other one, and I was trying to think this one through. So I think that my belief is that the best long-term game played, whether it's in business, whether it's in whatever, is not found in the extremes. So I was trying to sort of articulate this in my mind. I think it's the best, whether it's, let's take this podcast, for instance. Like if we're trying to do this podcast, and we're saying it's a long-term game. Yeah, we want to work for a long time. It's not found in the extremes of absolutely burning the candle at both ends and just going absolutely bananas and doing 100 podcasts, you know, every week or something crazy like that. It's also not found in, if we just do one podcast a year and I'll do 2 in the next year and then 3 in the next year, it'll ensure longevity, because I think it'll just get boring. So long-term games of the podcast, like say of doing the podcast, I think is somewhere in the middle of the extreme, like almost even exactly in the middle, maybe slightly towards the boring side. But then other things like training. In the long-term game and training for me is it's not whether, even though I want to make it more extreme, it's not about training every single day, you know, 2 hours every single day, maybe some double ups, maybe some triple ups or whatever. And it's also not training once per week or once per fortnight. It's long-term game is somewhere in the middle where it's constant, it's progressive. I can do it pretty much like without an end date type of deal. So something to do with, the long-term game is not found in the extremes.
Yeah, okay.
My belief.
That sounds sort of similar to something I'd believe, which is you need to find like balance within balance. I haven't got this philosophy real deep yet, real straight in my mind, but it'd be sort of connecting like the way Tao. I really like that concept that they've created, especially the saying it's like, the master who does nothing leaves nothing undone. Like it sounds so stupid when you hear it for the first time, but if you read like the full book, get full into it, the full message they're trying to convey, which is, you can work really hard and you can work really softly. You can try too hard and it makes things crap, and then you end up, doing worse than if you'd done 75%. That sort of message, I think that sort of links to the similar thing that you're talking about there.
Yep.
So finding the way. What else you got?
The other one I wrote there was, and is obviously stolen directly from Jocko, but totally believe it. The whole principle of discipline equals freedom. It's a belief. I find that either I probably just by way of the way training or whatever else I've done through life, I've always had the belief that a disciplined life, or at least doing the things that you're saying you're going to do and putting some structure in place, does create much more freedom. So at least personally, find that for me 100%. So if I wasn't disciplined, and I've definitely done it in like the last couple of months where I'll have had a day that's much less disciplined in the sense of maybe I didn't train, I didn't work, I wasn't eating correctly or whatnot. And maybe you might think like, oh, well, you've got a lot more freedom if you have all this stuff. Wrong. I just basically didn't like do anything. I ended up being like more constrained in my own mind because I wasn't disciplined to do these things to then find my time to be free to go and do whatever the hell I wanted. So yeah, and I think we talked about it before as well, like whether do you disagree that the full discipline might be a bit harsh? Or
yeah, I think
freedom?
I think that just the word discipline in my mind, it's got other connotations.
It's a stronger connotation, but yeah, so I'd say I'd be the other belief in them.
Okay, cool. All right, my one, and Peter actually said over here, Sam Harris talks about a moral landscape with local peaks and valleys. Overall, he argues minimizing the net suffering of all conscious beings is the best we can do and should be our goal. Yeah, that's pretty much sort of linked to the other two that I have here, which is consciousness has to be the start of the core argument anyone makes about meaning. So if you're talking about meaning, like what's the meaning of life, or even just arguing about philosophy, about what something is, what is real and what's not real, I think consciousness has to be the base layer. That's where you start from. And that's the problem, because it's also like the hardest thing to talk about. It's like, what the fuck is this thing? Why can I think?
So do you have a belief, let's say, do you have a belief that a plant is conscious?
No.
Okay. Because there was an interesting conversation, who did I listening to? I can't remember who it was. But their definition, which I hadn't really heard before, was consciousness linked to feedback loops, to an input to the system. And if we're like, the more feedback loops that it actually actions on, the more consciousness it then behaves. So if they're absolutely nothing, and by that is like a rock that no matter what the input is, there is no feedback loop for it to do something, as in you can melt a rock, but it ain't doing anything about it. You can warm a rock, whatever. You can be in the rain, the rock's not doing anything about this, right? But say a plant, it gets sunlight. And when the sunlight gets gotten, it goes through photosynthesis, and it actually does a feedback loop where it actually like ejects something out, and the system continues. So it's like there's some feedback loop around it growing because something's happening. And so I think it was he was having this conversation around, so that's like the lowest level of consciousness. And the more you have of these feedback loops in the system, the more consciousness you would say. So then a dog might have a lot more because it reacts to more inputs in different ways, and then gets all the way to humans being like, obviously lots of consciousness there because there's lots of responses based on the stimuli or the inputs coming in. Again, my belief there, I was like, that was a pretty good like point that they were making. I don't know if you could totally determine and say that really is consciousness though. The ability to react to an input.
Yeah, I would have just said then you're sort of losing the meaning of the word.
I just thought that the linkage to feedback loops,
what is the weather then conscious? Is a wind vane or something like that which can move with the changing of the weather and
it would probably extrapolate and be like, well, the Earth is conscious because lots of inputs it actually does react in different ways. Yeah. I think that it's I
was like the Thomas Nagel one. What is it like to be a bat? And his sort of essay was a good way of saying something is conscious is if you can guess or sort of feel what it would be like to be that thing. So I can sort of imagine what it would be like to be a bat, but I can't really for a rock. I'm sort of like drawing a blank.
You'd be like, what would it feel to be a rock? You're not seeing, you're not hearing, you're not. What is it?
Incredibly dumb, i.e. Joey. The other one I did have was we don't have free will. I'm pretty convinced of that. If this is once again from Sam Harris, his book called Free Will, that has convinced me more than any other argument has ever convinced me of anything that we don't have free will. And then added to that my own experiences, which he sort of talks about. So those are some of my core beliefs right there. Did you want to get into some boostagrams midway?
Yep, let's do that.
And then we can continue on the discussion. So for those who haven't joined before, boostagrams.
Actually, before you do that, before you go through that,
I
was going to say, because I can see a couple of people commenting and whatnot, I do want to, if you can, put in a belief in the thread there that you do have that might be controversial or non-controversial.
Yeah.
So I do want to read them out and either challenge it or support it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just while we go through.
That'd be cool. Yeah. do you want to bring up the boostagrams and I'll
Yep.
just read out some of the things. So we had Identity for Raz in the chat, man. Hey, man, I'm going to hit you up in probably about a week's time, and we'll get something cooking, man. I want to talk more book stuff with you. Joey is talking about some synonyms for discipline, control, development, education, method, practice, preparation, regulation, restraint, self-control, self-control. Well, lots of good stuff there.
All right, from when should I begin this now? 15th of January?
No, it should be from the
17th.
So it should have been the 19th. So anything from the 12th onwards, I guess.
12th onwards. Good. Yeah. Okay, so we got Dave Jones, 2,112 sats sent with Cast-O-Matic. So he said, this was great musing. Not a huge anime fan, but it's growing on me. My kids love it, and they're slowly winning me over. Attack on Titan and Sword Art Online are both great.
Yeah, I've heard of Sword Art Online. I used to like... I actually quite liked Attack on Titan, so you probably would have seen...
I've seen Attack on Titan.
Yeah. The problem with that was I was reading the manga, and then it just got like so political, man. Like it just became... Yeah, so the base story was set on, I think, the island of... I think it was called Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's when they had the Titans, like these walls that were protecting them from these, you know, unthinking creatures that were huge and would just come and like rip people apart and whatnot.
Yep.
And then they had like... They got to this point where I think they basically sort of solved the mystery a little bit, and then it was a backflash into how this island came about and how the Titans came about. And I went to this other place, and there was just like all politics, and it was, you know, these people versus these people, and I just went, man, like I'm out. I can't deal with it. Like this is
not for you.
Yeah, they lost like the whole. They stopped talking about Titans for a while, and it was all just about
that's a bit weird.
And yeah, so I just went, no.
That's not good.
So, but I do, yeah, I think I really liked like the first 2 seasons, maybe it is. I can't remember how much, but
I think I've seen like an episode and a half, not 2 seasons. Anyways, thank you, Dave. Here's another couple from Dave as well. There's two of 2,112 sats, both used Cast-O-Matic. First one there is: in the US, our HIPAA laws mostly prohibit email of medical information, but allows fax. That's such a piece of shit. I hate that system.
So that was me.
laws.
That's referring to me bitching about how I couldn't get my medical information from a doctor to just send it to me via email. They wouldn't allow it.
Piss weak.
Yeah.
And the other,
I don't accept that either.
No. The other note here from Dave is the rationale around fax when it comes to information security is that it's a point-to-point connection directly between two parties. Emails are a shared environment, which involves known insecure protocols. True. SMTP, which is the main email protocol, can't guarantee encryption or security in a shared hosting environment. I agree. I would agree. So technically, Dave, I would definitely support that. At the same time, who gives a fuck if you're finding out about my blood fucking samples? Like, you know, if a Russian hacker wants to get that information, so be it. They can tell me what I should be eating, more iron or whatever.
Yeah,
I get that though. There is some complexities of sending information via email, but
yeah, I guess then the argument would be, okay, you just got an STD test and it came up positive. Someone finds that out and holds that over your head. You know?
Yeah, I can see that. If they're going to the extent to hack my email account though, to do that, what else are they getting? What else are they getting? Yeah, if you're getting that medical, dude, they've got, you know, your accounts, they got access to all your wallets, they got access to everything else. But I get your point, Dave. I do get your point. Here's another one from Dave. Another 2,112 sats. Thank you very much, Dave. I wouldn't worry too much about long COVID one. Ooh, okay. Many viruses can cause post-viral illness. That's probably what I had for sure. But usually require a second factor to initiate. Some external trauma or stress. Trauma.
Trauma was actually a word that was pissing me off.
I have suffered from varicella zoster shingles onset, CFS, for many years. At the time of my shingles, my lifestyle was mega stress, lack of sleep, and poor diet. Just keep your sleep up, meditation, and vitamins, and you'll most likely
You're so screwed, man.
But he is right, because I did increase my sleep somehow, and vitamins have been good, and I do feel a lot better. So
okay, that's good.
Dave, appreciate, again, 2,112 sats sent with Cast-O-Matic, and do appreciate that note.
Yes, thank you, Dave. I actually had a bit of a lingering, I think I still do have something, like just a tiny cough that's just lingering around.
Yeah.
So I've got long COVID.
I'm going to say directly, Petar, who's, I don't know if he's still obviously on the chat there or not. But thank you very much for the 2,222 sats sent using Fountain, first of all, for the Juan Recovery Fund. Get well soon.
Definitely need
Thank
it.
you, sir. It 100% helped out. I went and got some vitamins, and I'm feeling way better. Second one from Petar, again, 2,222 sats sent using Fountain. Anime, are you excited for the Attack on Titan final season?
Damn, I can't. I'm not. I've tapped out of it at this
He's
stage.
tapped out. Peter, I'm so sorry. We've tapped out. But that is how the cookie crumbles, and that is all the boostergrams that we have.
That's a row of ducks as well in the podcasting world.
Two.
2 is
So it's a row of ducks.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it looks like a duck, like a two.
Fuck off. That's such bullshit. I hate this numerology crap that you guys talk about with like I get the numerology when it's like, 420 or, like 69.42 ETH when people are trying to sell that. But, man, I'm not about it just yet. I think I got frustrated when I used to play bingo.
Yeah, okay.
There was a lot of times I just like over the top, they'd be like, all the eights, fat ladies or whatever.
Yeah, I get that.
Come on, what's going on? These are just numbers.
Nice.
But I appreciate it, Peter and Dave. Thank you very much.
Yes, everyone who sent through Boostagrams.
Now, has anyone left a comment specifically around?
Yeah, there's a couple here. So we've got Identity Faraz says, free will can be directly be connected to nihilism. And when you try to answer and counter nihilism, you see that free will doesn't exist. So I think that's taking the route of that niche went down.
Yep.
I have yet to really explore that, to be honest.
I wouldn't.
That first book I read of his was close to incomprehensible. Luckily, I have.
I wonder if it would be more comprehensible if you read it in German. I actually wonder.
Well, at my current level of reading, absolutely not.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe in a couple of years' time,
sure.
Hopefully. I just finished reading Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan.
Oh yes, beautiful.
Just as incomprehensible almost. It's not actually, no, I won't say that. It was just boring. It was really boring.
Well, I've just picked up a random sentence.
Read out a random sentence.
The edicts of praetors, and in some cases of the English aediles, such are the chief justice in the courts of England. Yeah, all sounds crap.
The problem is it's just those run-on sentences. They're so long. They're so hard. Peter says Attack on Titan is great. Even the Slav watches that cartoon, as we just heard with the Boostagrams. Yes. Joey was just saying about what Identity Faraz was saying. So then he has said, whatever you do or don't do, there is a meaning behind everything, whether you provide it or not. And that's pretty disturbing, as you are robbed of your free will. And then Peter was asking, what about randomness? I think in the book, randomness doesn't solve it. So yes, things can be random, but free will is saying you have the choice to make. So if it's random, that's not a choice. So yes, it's impossible to prove whether that neutron or whatever it is going to be that quark is an up quark or a down quark, and without looking at it, you're looking at it changes it. So beforehand, yes, it's completely random, but you then don't get to choose if it's random. Random is still just some shit's happening. It can't be determined or not. That doesn't matter. It's still random. So that's the argument against that that Sam Harris makes. And what was he saying? There's a meaning behind everything, whether you provide it or not, and that's pretty disturbing, as you're robbed of your free will. Have you ever felt like your free will has been robbed, Juan?
I'm sure there would be occasions.
The only time, slightly was, I guess, when I was put in that jail cell in Mexico, and then it was like, oh, I can't leave here. Like, I can't get out of here.
I was trying to think of like a more subtle free will, where even whatever you would think would not be really free will, because you're like, oh man, no, that's already either predicted or something like that.
The only way I could maybe think of that is, if it's like a magic trick, or if someone's sort of playing with you, like they've set something up beforehand, so even though it feels like you're getting the choice of which card you get to pick, you're the one still in control, and you're the one moving it around.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing that I'd say is like the direct comparison, where it's like, oh, I actually didn't have a choice in the matter of what was going to happen.
I'll try it out on the listeners. So for people who are still out there, all right, I really I've got to make sure I'm ready. I'm not going to stammer. Quickly think of a color and a tool. And so the trick with this is you should have thought of red hammer. And the reason for that is because I said like, oh, are you ready? And then got to make sure I won't stammer. So that sounds like hammer. And then you just got to think of it real quick. And apparently red and hammer just comes up like 50% of the time.
Yep,
is what I've heard. I used to do this on dates all the time.
Did you?
Yeah. It unfortunately, I think like for me, it was like 1 and 3. It wasn't hitting the 50. So was kind of useless.
That's less than just a flip of a coin.
Yeah,
Dang.
pretty much, yeah.
I should have just been like, I'll just guess, like, you can flip a coin and I'll guess whether it's heads or tails.
Yeah.
And then be better off. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh, man, fuck that. That impresses the ladies. Joey came up with blue pliers, so obviously that didn't work there. All right, and Joey's got a fun question, then we'll get back to the topic. I have a question with the recent improvement in Kyrin's tennis game, particularly his once weak backhand, which is now perfectly competent. Will Juan beat Kyrin in tennis before the sun explodes?
I would have to choose to go and play some tennis again. So I don't know. The answer is, if I decided to play tennis or practice some tennis, then yes.
But are you
But
gonna?
am I gonna?
But am I gonna?
Before the sun explodes. Uncertain. It's uncertain.
All right, last one. Controversial belief from Peter. In 1,000 years, we will look back and release CO2. Realize CO2 is actually not a pollution, but in fact, it was great plant food that held off the next ice age ever so slightly. Yes, I could get behind this, to be honest. I've heard this before. My dad's a pretty big proponent of this. He was telling me that in the last ice age, how high, so ice covered the planet essentially in the last ice age.
Not all of it, mate.
Large portions of it. How high was it in, let's just say, compared to sea level?
20 or something meters?
Yeah, I think it was like 70.
So
70 fucking meters,
massive. It's massive.
Yeah. If we can avoid that, that'd be
70
good.
meters.
That's what he was telling me. He was telling me it was the size of multiple stories of buildings and whatnot. All right, cool. The sun will never explode. It will become a white dwarf. Yeah, that's also probably true. I won't trust Joey's advice on that.
I wouldn't know.
Nah. All right, cool. Let's get it back into some talking about beliefs. So another thing that came up for me is, are there any things that you find super boring that, people believe and that you just find like, meh, there's such a boring belief or like just a topic, I guess, that people have strong beliefs about that you find boring? For me, it's got to be religion, just in general. I'm sort of intrigued by why there's different religions and maybe some of like the superficial differences between them.
Yep.
But every time I've tried to dive deeper onto the core of Christianity or of Buddhism or Hinduism or any of the isms, I just get so bored. I find that there's so much dogma, so much rules, so many just things that like sucks out the interest in it. There's cool art that's come of it, the Middle Ages and the Inquisition and why people would sacrifice themselves and torture other people and whatnot. The same within Ireland, the Protestants versus Catholics. It's kind of like, cool, there's this battle, that's interesting. And then it's about religion, then you find why out they're doing it, and it's just like, fuck, like this is so boring. So that's one thing I find that people have strong beliefs about, and I'm just super bored by.
I'd probably split it the other way and probably say that I don't think there's a belief out there that is boring to me at a high level summary, but at a more detailed, more granular level of conversation of a belief, I'm bored of everything apart from the stuff that I care about. You know what I mean? So at a high level, I'd be game and interested to talk about like
free will versus, saying there's no free will versus saying there is free will.
That's fine. Like, but I'm also, there's some interest there. So that's probably not the fair one. I think the fair one would be like, say, religion. I would be interested in a conversation on belief that's probably cemented in a bit of a higher level conversation of perhaps is it just a, removal of fear because you then have some certainty around the world. Those high levels. When it gets to the conversation of the belief of, why did Christ do this specific thing, or why did Mary do that, or I couldn't give a toss. Like, I'd just be like, that bores me. That's because I don't care about it. So I think to those level of details, I'm like, nope, couldn't care. But if we start talking about the belief of, wormholes or black holes going to white holes, or, why did Einstein never finish a particular... Yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
Haven't you?
No.
Got to look it up. The whole conversation of, the belief of, string theory. Is it true? Is it not? If it was general relativity just the next octave, was it? Yeah, but it was the next octave that was going to be found through string theory, the theory itself through mathematics, if Einstein had never found it about. So the belief all around all that, I'm like, dude, get me involved in all the details of it. That would be great fun.
Yeah.
Only because I care about it. So I think if I care about it, I care about the belief.
Yeah.
Fine, I'm conversation. But bored if it's details of stuff, I don't care. The other one I was thinking in my mind, I don't know, we talked about this recently, art or music. I care at the high level. Like if you said to me the belief that I think Van Gogh was a great painter, or the Bored Ape Yacht Club looks better than the, Be Friends.
Yeah.
Maybe at a high level, maybe I'll be willing to have a conversation. Get into the belief of, but the stroke is this and the painting, I'd be like, who cares? I don't care. This is not useful to me at all as a belief or conversation point.
Yeah, man, there's three things I wanted to bring up. One was, man, those jackass string theory people are they're just like, oh yeah, we would have come up with general relativity if
that's always an interesting. I literally listened to a podcast very recently about that.
Yeah, okay, that's funny. I mean, maybe it's true. Who knows? The second was, I sometimes feel bad for you because I get to control. Well, it's a choice on my part. It's a choice on your part. True. Not to have an active go of the editing and whatnot. But in the art section, I'm just gonna try and make you look like such a biggest jackass by. Have you seen that? Have you seen that meme where it's a black guy's face and he's got a beard, and it's like NFTs be like, and it switches his beard for the top of his head. And then it's like bald, double beard on top, no. I've seen that. Fuck, I'm just gonna be doing that all through the last one. Good. The last thing was for me. I guess the granularity definitely. It doesn't take very long for me to just go, nah. Like, I don't care about this, get into cryptos. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, this is awesome. And then it starts talking about coding and like the protocol level, and I just tap
starts
out.
Fading away. Yeah.
The other one is if the way people talk about something. So I think the same, like politics, I could be interested in, but it's just the way people talk about it. It gets like, I'm done. COVID, another one. Conspiracy theories, health related stuff as well. I'm interested, and then just the way the conversation goes and how I hear about it. I'm just...
Well, there's that saying, I'm just trying to think it off the top of my head rather than looking it up, but it's like, maybe the belief, I probably hold this, not that I do it all the time, but I think that it's a good belief to have and maybe aspire to, where rather than having a conversation about things or people, it's more of the ideas. So I think I do hold a belief that we should probably be talking more towards the ideas or, the actual concept itself, as opposed to people or a thing. So, in this case, like I do hold the belief that it's probably more important. Well, sorry, it's less important to talk about, it's Einstein, or it was X, or it was Y mathematician, or it was this person, or it was this equipment, or whatever. Probably less important than to discuss the actual theory itself or the principles behind it, or why perhaps, why is it that general relativity fails at the extremes, and why is it that we're looking towards a God equation, if you will, that actually can harness and understand everything better. Like understanding that concept, and it's, entrenched in us humans just wanting to know more about just physics and mathematics and the law of the universe type of deal. That's probably more interesting, and probably the belief is, you'll find more enjoyment in those conversations or than the people side.
Yeah. This is where maybe one of the only cases where, well, actually, we should do the next musings on anonymity, because there's some really interesting things with regards to like when it's useful and when it's not useful. This is one of the cases where maybe it would be useful.
What's the most fantastic one that's happened in the last 10 years? Satoshi, right? Yeah. Like, I'm at it, right? Like, nobody knows who really Satoshi is from a Bitcoin perspective. They, her, she. Is it an animal? Aliens? Who knows? Is it Vladimir?
It's a fucking rock.
It's Putin. Sorry, it's a rock. Is it how you feel? Yeah. Rich. But the whole principle behind, like, it's probably the fact that it was done anonymously that it championed that the idea was carried forward without the pressure behind it. And maybe that belief held there is actually made it successful for that reason. If it was, put it whatever name you want to put, there might have been...
Yeah, like you find out it was, I don't know, Mark Cuban or something.
Yeah, there might have been views where it's like, oh, it's American. Well, I'm not going to support this.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like Republican or Democrat, whatever he is. Republican, I think? I don't know. You know, it would be like, oh, well, it's that. Oh, okay, well, I'm not going to support it.
Yeah,
but
sure.
anonymous, everyone's just talking about the idea. It's no focus about the people.
Definitely.
So, yeah, for sure.
Very interesting. All right, the last one I had on my little agenda here was just with regards to getting back to the belief versus action. And so I was actually trying to find out some stats today of how many people actually believe in free will, for example. So in the one that we were talking about, the example was just, oh yeah, there's maybe like how many people on the street actually would believe in a flat earth. I'm sorry. And then I was saying, oh, you know what? There's maybe like one in 1,000. And I actually tried to find out online, and the best I could find was that it's maybe 2%
of the population.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? Let's.
But that's more than 1 in 1,000 then.
Yeah. Then I said, all right, this is like a dodgy internet thing I found. Let's, put it down by a factor of 10. That's 0.2%. So that's 2 in every 1,000. Let's just make it 1 in 1,000. So it might actually be around 1 in 1,000. Does that belief that they have that the world is flat really affect their day-to-day life? So my dad actually knows a flat earther, but he still flies. He still gets on airplanes. He still
lives life. Yeah.
He still uses and uses things which shouldn't be possible because of physics.
Of his belief of flat Earth.
Because like the things contained within the flat Earth belief should make other aspects of his life sort of untenable. Like, why would this work?
Well, not really though, because they've figured out ways at least in their own mind of being like, oh, this is how it works and why it works. Surely.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing. Like,
surely they're not like, oh, I believe in flat Earth and all of the physics around that and planes, apart from planes, that actually works.
Yeah. Well, there's the thing, I guess. So, you can believe that and you can construct other narratives in your own mind, which then just lets the world work as the world works. It's not like you see flat earthers, like we were saying, grappling hook, clinging to the ground, walking around, shouting at people or telling you, or even just behaving like at any moment something related to the flat earth theory would result in like the earth turning upside down or something.
Yeah, and falling off.
Yeah. So I would argue that with most things, like most things that are outside, let's just say outside the normal. My one with regarding free will, I'm probably in the very small camp of believing that free will doesn't exist, but I certainly behave like it exists. And I know that's a contradiction, and that's totally fine with me. I think the world is full of paradox and contradiction. And so this was getting back to, if things are happening online and maybe people's beliefs are becoming more stronger and more polarized, is that actually bad? Is that going to result in worse things?
No. Well, it can. And I think it can, but I think what you were saying then, I think it falls back to, yes, a wonderful place to be would be that what you think and then what you say and then what you do are all the same. Like, that's fantastic. How often that happens to, humans at large in a normal society, and most of us are mere mortals, folks, that doesn't happen that often. Like, it doesn't happen that often that you do think that and then you go and act it and then you go and say it. Has it happened? Has there been extremes? Certainly. But I think even if I pulled out Instagram and, there's the people have this view that's, it's causing us to be more polarized. And I find someone who I'm really in disagreement with because they posted a picture of a fluffy dog. And I think, dogs are evil. And I go, fuck you, mate. Get rid of this. This is horrible. Right? Now that's maybe me taking an action, right? And thinking it and saying it. But is that the same thing as, or would you act in the same way in face to face with somebody? No, I don't think that you're thinking of that belief would translate to you saying it and acting on it that easily. I think it creates a path for you to like be saying it, but I don't think that it directly means that it's now translating that into everything you're doing in everyday life.
Yeah. I guess like, the argument would be made, oh, but that person who reads that hurts, that stings. And then I would probably be arguing, okay, yeah, yes, but that might be just something you need to learn. You just need to learn that Twitter's not the same as talking in real life. Yeah. It's not the same as...
Well, here's the other belief. Like, people can hold contradictory beliefs as well. And going back to it. So you're saying you can believe that there's no free will, but you will act like there is free will. Right? Okay. How? How can people really hold that? Well, give you an example. Have you met people who care about the environment and say we shouldn't be using plastics? Have you met people like this?
Yeah. I'd say I have, yeah.
Now, let's just imagine, because we're not gonna find like a particular person, but let's just say there was 100 of them, right? How many of them do you think would have used throwaway plastic masks?
Like all of them, yeah.
All of them. Maybe not. Maybe there would have been a few who would have been like really diehard and be like, no, I don't want to. That's a contradictory belief right there, if you want to talk about it, because they're like, you believe that we shouldn't be using, reusable plastics or throwaway plastics. You're buying ones that are essentially throwaways.
That one doesn't count.
Doesn't count, right? Exactly.
No
So I think you can have contradictory beliefs in a few things, on a lot of things,
I would
and
say
be totally fine.
Almost all things.
Yeah. Well, as you say, with the paradoxes, we live in a world of paradoxes with a lot of the things that we do.
Yeah, so. And there's a lot of philosophy related to that. I was just reading Camus' Absurdism, which is sort of related to that. I think the Taoism, that's a similar thing, paradox, and probably even niche from what Faraz was saying. Someone who does act on their beliefs though, Peter, I'm going to go start my car later for no particular reason, to help the cause. Legend
you very
Peter.
Much. He's just feeding the trees around him. That's all he's doing.
We'll finish up these comments, I think, and then we'll call it here for today.
Good.
So right after that, Peter, Juan should never talk physics. And then this face, like... I'm no better than you, to be honest. Joey, same. I've already turned my car on. Gonna let it run for a couple of hours because I really want to save and preserve this beautiful planet. Thank you, Joey. You're doing the Lord's work there. Brilliant. You can fly from one part of the plate to another. Duh. Confirm. Peter is a flat earther. This is where it's like I can sort of. It's one of those funny ones where you could try and argue with the flat earther and then kick your ass because they've practice their arguments. True. So I could sort of be saying, okay, but I can fly to Chile this way versus this way, and I can fly in a straight line, and then they'll be like, nah, the plane's lying to you. You're actually flying in a circular pattern, not
yeah. You're gonna get beaten. Well, yeah. If you descend into someone else's level, they're gonna beat you with the stupidity. So it's that's your own fault if you're gonna do that.
So I must be like the fucking master of debate then, because I'm already at like the lowest level you can get to. All right, contrarian view from Joey. The value of meritocracy in the workplace has been eroded by identity politics to the detriment of workplaces at all levels of business. I would say that's just straight up fact now. I would maybe say there was other things before the sort of, what was it, identity politics? Because I would say meritocracy was maybe jeopardized back in the day by, women can't do this. Like they're not as smart as men. They can't rise to this position because they're just going to fuck it up. Or, their temperament won't allow them to, et cetera, et cetera. So I would maybe argue that identity politics is just another form of just bullshit human thinking that has just existed throughout time. And it's really hard to find meritocracies. Unless you're in maybe like a small company. I could maybe see it in small companies.
Perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. You could get super specific wordings, but I think broaden it. I think just the belief of if you want to apply purely meritocracy, I don't think you're going to find anybody who's actually going to enjoy that. There's going to be someone in some aspect of any branch to be like, no, I don't support that because it doesn't give preferential treatment for these people who have got a worse ability to go into that position, right? Because you could the identity politics aside, you could just get anything. Like imagine you do two humans, right? And you go, it's pure meritocracy, right? And let's just say, I'm going to spell it out. Let's say it's one person who's incredibly rich. Well, it came from a rich family. Well, they got all the training that they needed.
I can give you a real life example. So they when you were going for your audition in an orchestra, they used to do it where you sit before a panel and you play your violin and you're going for first string, let's say, or first string, right? Whatever it is. You're going for that. Then back in the day, there was a sort of prejudice against women, and so orchestras had way more men than they did women. And then they started introducing blind tests. So the person would be behind a curtain, and so the judges were just listening to the music and how they played, and not knowing whether it was a man, a woman, or trans, or whatever the fuck, a rock. Then that was like, oh, that's way better. That's more meritocracy.
Sure.
But then maybe, if you take that to the limit, you could just get some complete asshole, just absolute dickhead who doesn't play nice by the rules, but they play really good music. Everyone hates going to practice because this dude's a fuckwit. And you skipped over the girl who's just slightly worse than him, but is super nice, and she brings muffins all the time. Everyone else is like, fuck, attendance at practice goes up by 20%. 120%. Cool. That would make it better, but because you're focusing on this one particular aspect, you fucked it up.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what I was going to get. I think if you go to like general, that meritocracy or any sort of politics or anything can bring it down. It all just falls down to, when you're being meritocratic about something, what is it that you're trying to be about, right? Because you could be meritocratic about, let's be specific about, like, well, we've got to have these exact metrics, sorry, that you could be like, oh, it's about sales. Yeah. Well, then who cares? Again, a dog might come and be a better salesman, and then meritocratically, like, everyone's fired, and you just have a dog and like a person walking around, and that's a sale. Are you fighting against that? So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I agree that there's lots of levels to that.
The other one would be you're not making your expectations of what exactly you want. So you start this photography company, and as the boss, you actually just want to get laid. Like, you just want to fuck your employees. Yep. So you're hiring like the hottest chicks, but you don't make that explicit, and so people are like, why is she like, she's an amateur photographer? Why is she getting a position? It's like, dude, do you want that position? Because he's gonna fuck you. Like,
actually, here's another. And going back to, here's an interesting belief, I think, and going back to Joey's point, I do believe that we're going to come to a point where we've been playing around the whole identity politics, or what should be, or we should have the right amount of people at these board levels, blah 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 blah, until the whole conversation is going to be like, well, this robot's better than 4 of you, so I'm getting rid of all 4 of you. And then we're all going to be like, oh,
that's not far away, man.
Oh man, okay, so like, it doesn't matter what we are now, we're just not as good at that robot, so suck on that.
That's starting to pop up. I think that conversation has been around for a couple of years, not strongly, but it's going to get even bigger.
Well, I'm telling you, I work at a place right now where some of our processes that we're doing with robot process automation, we're doing it so that as people gradually leave, there's a general tendency for X amount of percentage of people to leave a company as they go year to year. Yeah, is to not rehire people. Yeah, is to swap them out with those processes.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, Joey was saying that's pretty much universally accepted. Peter was saying that was in reference to the identity politics. Yep. 100% agree with the plastic face mask, plastic fork analogy one. One that I think of is, why isn't all animals valued the
Petar?
Same? No, that's Joey saying that now. So why aren't all animals valued the same? Why isn't the cockroach?
I think because we put different levels of consciousness to animals.
Yeah, that as well, and just cuteness as well. Cuteness is a big one. If it's a cute animal, they get saved. They get the money. There's not many people trying to save the the worm in. Yeah,
no one gives a shit about worm. I'm telling you what. I bet you right now there is a worm species going extinct, and nobody gives a shit. Yeah, nobody's going to be raising any money for it.
That's correct. Joey says kill bugs, not cows. Peter says, I heard in Australia the toilets swirl in the opposite direction. Confirm, deny?
They do.
Run over?
They do. They do.
What direction do they go?
They go clockwise here, and it's anti-clockwise. I think it is. I'm going to say run out before I go. It's clockwise here and clockwise in the US.
I've seen The Simpsons, but I can't remember. This is the real life podcasting here. I should try and put the the mic closer to you. Should have got you to drag the mic over one. What way?
Clockwise.
Confirm clockwise, Peter. I don't know what way it is in Canada, so you go to your toilet now and tell us.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Joey says, awesome discussion around my view. Thank you, Peter. Too. Kyrin makes a good point. Getting laid metric is definitely increasing. I agree. That is the most important metric of all. I think we're going to call it there for today, people. Everyone, thank you for joining us for the live chat. Peter and Dave Jones, thank you for boostagramming. That is always very much appreciated. Those sats go straight back into the system. If you have not heard of this before, people, we do a value for value podcast. So this is a way for you to show your value that you're getting from this. So we spend a lot of time creating this, doing the audios, doing the editing, jumping online, creating chapters, doing all sorts of things. What are you trying to do there, Juan? We ask that you return some value. So if you can send us some Satoshis, we appreciate that. If you leave us some comments, join in the live chat like Joey and Petar and Faraz have. That's very much appreciated. It gives us some more content, some interaction, things to work from. And then if you wanted to help us out in more the offline world as well, that is also appreciated. We also have Voody in the chat. He enjoyed it, that last shout out we did on the start of the video. So thank you Voody for joining in as well. And yes, to send us Boostagram Satoshis, go to newpodcastapps.com, try out one of the apps that are there, get some Satoshis. You're going to thank us for it in a couple of years' time when cryptocurrency is everywhere and you've got yourself some Bitcoin. So other than that, I think we'll leave it there for today. Juan, can you take us out, please?
Thank you very much, folks. Me and Model Lights. Juan out.
Kyrin out.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Done. And then we are ending the stream. Thank you, everyone.